We last week discussed various ideas about increasing positivity in general in all relationships. And for many of us, the direction we went was marriage. Of course, it doesn't have to be marriage because there's plenty of areas in our life where we have to add in the positivity. So I want to quickly sort of get a feel for what happened over the week. This is not a test. There's no wrong answers, but to see what we accomplished and moving forward. And then we hopefully have time to discuss intimacy a little. And then, of course, we'll speak about the Parsha all within the next 55 minutes. So we spoke about gratitude list, which I think Simcha showed us her book. So Target agrees with it too. And it's a very, very, I think now more and more understood idea. And it's great. And I think we all got that. We also spoke about the idea of reframing our language and our thoughts and committing to like not use in our thoughts or in our language negative, to reject the negative thoughts, to reject the negative language, and to transplant them with something positive. So who tried to do this past week? Now, again, it's fine if you didn't, because I just asked you to do one of the like 7 things I spoke about. But is there someone that did work on this last week, over this last week?
I work on it on a daily basis, not to say that I succeed every day.
Amazing. Okay. I'm so glad you work on it on a daily basis, because anything you're working on, you have to work on a daily basis. I mean, we've only spent, for some of us, 50 some years acquiring bad habits. So to change them into good habits takes daily work. So Dorit, since we're going to pick on you, because you confessed to doing the work, did you feel a change, like in the atmosphere in the house or with a person that you were focused on when you were focused?
For sure. So one of my triggers, if I can call it that, is my 13-year-old son. And I tried it more so with him than with anybody else, because he really responds to the negative in a bad way. And I have to work on myself a lot to like keep my cool and not want to strangle him when he's like answering me the same things over and over.
At least he's answering you. That's pretty good. What about the kids that don't answer a word when we talk?
You know, with his answers, you'd like, it's best you shut up.
Okay.
Sometimes. But yeah, there was definitely less arguing and less animosity and kind of those bad energies going around. But I felt like some of those times that I was really holding it in, like I'm boiling over. So I think that's something I can use some tips on, is like, okay, so I'm working on myself and telling myself like, okay, don't yell and don't raise your voice and keep your calm. But then like, how do you keep it when things continue to escalate? And you're the adult in there. And so it's really on you to keep your cool. So I'm open to any tips.
So sometimes, I mean, it's a great question. And I'm not the only one that has an answer to this. So anyone should feel free to jump in. So what Dorit is saying is she did the homework. I mean, it wasn't homework. It was like, take something from what you're learning. Don't waste your hour. She did it. And she did it with a real challenging situation. Like we all have challenging situations. That's probably who we do it with. Though sometimes people do it with easier situations to not feel that stretch, but most of us do it with a harder situation. That's what we need it for. And she was calm and positive, and inside like, but she was calm and positive. So it's very difficult. It's something that works. What you're basically asking is, how do you dissipate the negativity on the inside? And something that really works, that we've definitely touched on in this class off and on many times, because it's such a powerful tool, so I share it many times, is feeling compassion. Feeling compassion for the child who's stuck. And Nebuch, he's 13. He's going to be a teenager for many years. And you're going to be the mother of a teenager for many years. And for some kids, it's like, it's such painful years. Now, again, maybe he's been a teenager since he was 9, as nowadays people start teenagers younger and younger, and people continue teenagers older and older. So we get both ends of the spectrum. But it's for some kids, teenage years are so painful. And I say to myself, I mean, especially like you're saying that child, obnoxious, in those years, I just tell myself like he's in a lot of pain now. And I'm just the most convenient dartboard. And I get that because I'm his mother, so I'm safe. I'm a very safe dartboard. But he's in a lot of pain to need to vent that anger and fear and his insecurities on someone. And of course, I'm the convenient someone, so it's usually on me. So when I think those thoughts, what they do is they dissipate your anger, because you can't be really feeling anger for someone that you feel compassion for. Like if you really think about it, now again, I don't know your son in the backstory, but I'm just assuming if he's like a typical teenager.
No, that's a very good thing to do. And what about like when we get into these arguments of like why he should help clean up and with dinner and stuff like that? So over there, it's less of like, how can I feel compassion? Like you're a member of this house too. You're not more tired than anybody else. You're not physically disabled. God, thank God. Like, how can you feel compassion for somebody who doesn't see like a need to do something that, typically we don't all really jump to do, but we need to.
Was he doing it before he hit his teens, at whatever year he hit his teens, or was he always resistant and never did it? Did he used to help and stopped, or he never would help?
He would help, but it was always like pulling him to get him to help, and very rarely would it come from him. And now it's like even pulling him, it's like nearly impossible.
So you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. And again, maybe many people would disagree. I don't know if I would bother. I don't know if the help was worth
so
it.
That's kind of where I'm staring. It's like, I'm not going to fight with you and
I don't know
beg
if
you to help.
I don't know, like, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
I am not saying that this is true. If I'm saying something that I know is Torah, I will be very confident to tell you this is Torah. This is not Torah. This is just my opinion. If it's so much work, and it's not like you need to spend a long time teaching a child how to do laundry, but then once they learn, they could do it themselves and they're proud. You're not talking about that type of investment of time. You're talking about this is a resistant teenager who's probably been resistant for the next 6 years. So all that effort you're putting in to get them to do something that you could do yourself with so much faster, less aggravation. I don't know. I would only do it if I really needed the help. Like if I was so desperate for the help. But if I'm going to put so much energy into fighting with them, then I'm not gaining anything. Like even if I am desperate for the help,
it was more of like trying to teach them responsibility and
so
pitching in and that whole idea.
Right. So if your goal is teaching responsibility, then find a different venue to do it.
Yeah.
Give him a job that he earns money and learn him to be responsible to do his job, turn money, find something he's interested in and have him responsibilities and what he's interested in. But if washing the dishes doesn't fall on those lists, I wouldn't use that as a form to teach responsibility, because that's a fight. I have plenty of kids that are great helpers in other people's houses. I have a few children that are good helpers in my house, and I have many that are so resistant, I don't bother.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it for me. Very minimal gain, very minimal return. The good news, because I have some children that are obviously have grown, is as they grow, they become more and more, each one in their own way, but more and more wanting to help their mother. So there will come a time, but if he's 13, you got a while to wait.
Bezrat
Hashem. Exactly. Anyone else worked on this? Chose this specific idea of like changing your language, changing your thoughts to being positive? Anyone else worked on this? Which is fine if you didn't, because as I said, you only had to take one, and I'm not going to ask you about each one, so you're all safe. But Dorit said she did. And then when I asked her the follow-up question, did it make a difference in the atmosphere? She said, yes, that was the right answer, because that's what's supposed to happen. Now, for those of you that did not do this, I'd like you to ask yourself this question, because I happen to think this is a really important thing. to create positivity in any relationship? If you were going to do it, which word, phrase, or thought would you reject? I'd like you to think. You didn't do it. It's fine. But if you were going to, I'd like you to select one word you would not allow yourself to say anymore, or one phrase you would not allow yourself to say or to think. Just one. I mean, you could have a list of 20, but just pick one.
Maybe something like, I wish you would have done, like something that you're saying that you're not a direct instruction, but something about the past that you can't change anyway. So like, I wish you would have done this, or you should have done that.
You're saying that's something you would not let yourself say anymore?
Yeah, to keep the focus on positive versus negative in the past.
And the past instead of right. Like, why do you always?
Mhm.
You're the child that, or the person that. Yes, that's a very important point what Hannah's saying. It's not a specific word, it's a concept. And it's very relevant, because it never helps to just put someone in that pigeonhole of, well, I would never rely on you to be on time anywhere. Well, I don't even know why I bothered asking. Well, you've never done this. All those things, what they do is exactly what you're trying to do when you say them. They make the person very small. The gain is zero, because they shrunk and you now have a shrunken child or spouse or colleague. I mean, you probably wouldn't say that to your colleague, but whoever you would say it to, what's happening to them is exactly what those words are supposed to make happen. They become very small. They feel very bad about themselves, and loss. It's a loss for them. It's a loss for you. Besides, of course, a loss in the relationship. Anyone else have any ideas of what they would not say or think? Just one thing that they would share that they would no longer do if they were working on this. I think what I would omit if I was working on this is the thought, I can't handle this. I think it's one of those horrific
That's a
thoughts
great one.
that come into my brain, and it's such poison. I can't handle this. Destructive, horrible thought that's just removed by not allowing myself to think those words. They're taboo. They're treif, pasul. I'm not allowed to think that. I can think of any other things, but that line I can't think. It would be very, very, very beneficial. Anyone have something else they could think of that they would not let themselves think or say if they were working on this, if they were choosing to work on this one? Simcha, what about you? See, I don't see anyone's face, but I see Simcha's picture, so it's close enough. Simcha, what would you omit if you had to omit one thought or one word?
What I think about most when we talk about this is my job and my colleagues,
Okay.
and they're a bunch of lazy do-nothings. So they don't do anything. Like, I don't even know why they're teachers or assistants. I'm not sure. Like,
Okay.
they just want to get through the day. So this is a thought I have often in my head throughout the day, because I'm doing 3 jobs in one. And so I try not to think about that, because I come home emotionally drained every single day just from my thoughts of that.
So your thought is, the thought you would take away is, they are so lazy, I don't know what they are doing in this school building.
Well, I'm just talking it out with you. This is what is coming to my mind as I listen to this whole entire conversation, because I've been looking for a new job for since the beginning of the school year.
And for that reason.
Yes, because it's just overwhelmingly a lot of work. You know what kind of work I do. So it's like,
Simcha is a
um,
special ed teacher in the public school
yes,
system.
in the
I was gonna say, maybe
yeah.
you just need to be in a different school because my son has wonderful teachers and aides. I've never encountered that in all my years.
Uh-huh.
But again,
Um,
maybe I'm just the ignorant parent, so it's happening. But
so
I've always been very impressed.
So I think you are the ignorant parent from Chicago Public Schools. I've been in 2 different schools now, and I've seen the different classrooms. And like even in our classroom, everything that is said to the parents is pretty much one big lie. So,
Okay, great.
right. And so I just kind of like turn around and walk away. Like I'm not saying it. I'm not saying I'm saying why. I'm saying that what is being given over and what is portrayed and what is marketed and what is like, like a mother asked, oh, did my daughter said that someone bit her today? And the teacher says, no, nobody bit her. Well, I'm pretty sure someone bit her that day. So, like I'm not, we have a lot of behaviors in our room and there's a lot of faces getting smashed in by kids and because there's
I
not
hear
a
you.
good,
So maybe
right.
to
So
encapsulate this idea, because I think what you're saying is a perfect example, and something Simcha said I want to focus on. Simcha said, and she comes home emotionally drained from spending a whole day processing this negative energy. So imagine if Simcha tried tomorrow in the classroom to whatever line she's going to tell herself, but not let herself think that negative. Imagine how much healthier she might come home with. Now, the step after that, which I guess we spent a long time in this, we're not going to go through. But my next step, which would be a question to Simcha, a question to myself, a question to anyone, is, so what am I going to say to myself instead? If I said, I'm going to remove, I can't handle this, I need to have my response, which is, I can handle this, or God's helping me through this every step of the way, or I'm being carried right now, I'm not walking alone. So the same thing in Dorit's situation, or what Hannah said, or what Simcha's saying, instead of saying, oh my gosh, they're so lazy and I don't know what they're doing in this building, or I don't know what I'm doing in this building. So Simcha has to think what she's going to say to herself, because the thoughts will come up. Just suppressing them doesn't help. And that's what I think Dorit's point was, that she was all sweet, but she was all mad inside. So we have to figure out a way to transplant it with something else. Like in Simcha's case, she has to transplant it with, I'm here right now at this moment. This is where Hashem wants me to be. And I'm doing my best work with the students. And that's all I'm going to focus on. And I'm doing my best job for the students. And that's all I'm going to focus on. I'm only here for my students and I'm not going to notice anyone else. And she's going to tell herself that, I mean, I just gave her an idea, all day long.
no, I like that idea. That's a good idea.
So then it's not just, I'm not going to say that negative thought, but this is what I am going to say. So for anyone that now is going to be a little more motivated to work on this specific thing, again, identify what you are going to not say, either as Hannah said, a general concept, or as I gave a certain phrase, or simply gave a certain situation. And very important, what are you going to transplant it with? What are you going to put instead? Because otherwise, yeah, like Dorit said, you're good on the surface, but it's not going to last. You're going to crack because inside you're not good. All right. So that was the second thing. We spoke about positive qualities for your spouse or for anyone else you're in a relationship with. We spoke about writing down 3 positive qualities, a compliment, an empowerment, something unique, and looking for opportunities to express that to them. Looking for opportunities that we said we want that to be our go-to, that every encounter I have with someone is a positive encounter that empowers them, that makes them feel good. Anyone worked on this past week?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Simcha didn't. Did anyone? Okay. If nobody did, that's fine too. Because again, you only had to pick one. But
I was attempting to like brainstorm it. Like I didn't like, go and sit down and write it. but my like, and I think this was my hurdle to like not getting a piece of paper and writing things down, is because I felt like the things I was coming up with were like very superficial. And how deep does this need to be? Is it like, oh, thanks for him taking the garbage?
It
Or
needs
like,
to be, no, that's a great question. How deep does it need to be? First of all, some of us, everybody that we have a relationship with, we have a different type of relationship. So think of it in terms of your friends. There's a certain friend where you're going to talk about your manicures, which color you're picking out. And that's like the level of relationship, and that's good and that's comfortable and you like it. And then like for another person, you would feel so stupid and you wouldn't want to have that type of conversation with them. And you're going to talk about some things that are real going on inside your heart during your life. So the same way when you're thinking about a person and you're thinking about what can I say to help them feel better about themselves and to engender a positive atmosphere, it has a lot to do with the level of relationship. And it's fine if you're just starting this tool and you're on the surface. So you only can think of very superficial things. Start. It's like any muscle, you'll get better at it. And it's good to like, in brainstorming, we just freely write and we don't criticize ourselves. So it's good to just, like I said, just come up with 3, freely write 3, no criticism. Come back to the paper another day, freely write, maybe the same 3, maybe 3 different ones, no criticisms. Another day, freely write. So in the end, you're going to have 9, which might end up being 6 because you might have repeated yourself a few times. And then just pick one and look for an opportunity to say it. And then another one, look for an opportunity to say, and you're going to get better at it. If this is your headspace. Now, again, I wouldn't try to do this with every single person I interact with because it would be way too draining. It'd be way too intense for me to live like that. I would say pick one person that you want to really help them or help your relationship or is very important in your life, like a child, like a spouse, like a parent. And for that one person, try to do it. And as you get better at it, it becomes more and more natural. You don't have to sit and write it down and then come up with 9 to be able to say 1. It's just more the natural way you interact with people. I could say it's not the same idea, but there was a time when I took upon myself an interesting resolution. I said, when I'm in a store or when I'm on the phone and someone says their name, like on the phone, they say their name and or in the store, they have their name, I'm going to make a point to use it. I did it for a very specific reason. I want to give the other person a sense that they're a person too. They're not just some nameless whatever. No, they're a person. They have a name. I'm honoring their humanity in that way. And in the beginning, it was, of course, artificial and hard, and I had to focus and I had to remember. But once you do it enough times, it just becomes natural. You don't really think about it. It's just how you treat a person. So it's the same thing with this and any of these other tools. In the beginning, it's hard, it's superficial, it's artificial. But the more you do it, it becomes you. You change. You just become the type of person that's so nice to be around because you're always making the other person feel good. That's like, in essence, in brief, a goal. Okay, we spoke about a few other ideas. We spoke about adding positivity by thinking about setbacks in the relationship, like for example, in a marriage, and seeing how those setbacks became springboards. We spoke about in a relationship, writing down the foundational values, like in a marriage. Why did I go into marriage? What are my morals? What are my ideas? What are my commitments in marriage? We spoke about redeeming unresolved past issues in this relationship, like in this marriage, or in your life, that those unresolved past issues still come up and still bother. We spoke about identifying silver linings, like understanding in hard situations, there's the good, like in COVID and things like that, and focusing on that. So those were 7 things we discussed last week. Moving on. Praise. Praise is really hard for a lot of us. A lot of us have a hard time praising. A lot of us have a hard time receiving praise. A lot of us have a hard time with both. So creating yourself, habituating yourself to regularly generously, they don't have to completely deserve it to get my praise. No, my praise is very valuable because I only praise if they really deserve it. No, that doesn't work. If it ever did, it definitely doesn't work nowadays. Very, very, very generously praising. People are uplifted when they are praised. I remember seeing this in myself. It was very interesting. I was, I don't remember who it was because it was a while ago, but it was some therapy session I was with my son with, as I've been to infinite therapy sessions. And the therapist, I remember she said to me at one point in the session, "Oh, you could already be a therapist by now." And they're very casual comment. And I was like, it so motivated me. I saw myself. It was very interesting watching myself respond to the praise. But I really saw the rest of the session. I was so motivated to be even more engaged. It was true. Now, I felt that was a true statement. I did feel by now I could be a therapist. It wasn't like, oh, she's so off. Oh, she doesn't know me. You know, sometimes praise is very uncomfortable because we know it's not true. But here I felt it was true enough that it really got to me and it really motivated me. As a teacher, I just said the class before this one, I was teaching teachers how to teach Chumash, and it was a very strong point I was saying in many different ways. My secret goal, secret just among us, as a teacher, is to make every one of my students feel they are so smart. That's my secret covert goal. Because they really are. Everybody's smart. But you have to make them realize they're smart. And I do so many things to make my students think they're smart. Because the more they think they're smart, the more they're going to love to learn, the more they're going to be engaged in the class, the more they're going to try. And guess what? The more they're going to try, the more they're going to succeed. It's an amazing relationship out there. So that praise, that like, oh my gosh, that's such an amazing question. Like you just asked Ramban's question. I mean, not really, but it's the second cause and twice removed. It's close enough. They're going to feel so great. They're going to pay attention for the rest of the class and they're going to view themselves as smart. And if you view yourself as smart, you succeed. So praise, when it's done effectively, is an amazing thing. Let's go back to like Dorit's son. I don't want to talk about Simcha's age. That might be a touchy subject, but Dorit's son. Imagine if she could find the ways to praise that felt genuine, praise that was true. He knows is true, and praise that would like turn him around from being a teenager to being a happy person. It's really, really amazing how much it impacts a relationship. There was a incident that happened with one of the early emissaries of the Lubavitch Rebbe. His name was Rabbi Gorelick. He was the emissary for many, many, many years in Milan, in Italy. And in one of his private audiences with the Rebbe asked him something very unusual. The Rebbe said to him, "How is your relationship with your wife?" And the Rebbe asked him to write down the dynamics of the marriage between himself and his wife. And okay, that's sort of uncomfortable, almost like weird, like, you know, what's the Rebbe asking me? I came for spiritual advice. I came for blessings, for success. What does that have about my marriage? I'm not coming for marital problems. What does it have about my marriage? But okay, this is what the Rebbe said to him to do. So he did it. So he spent a long time. He took paper after paper and he was writing down all of the many virtues of his wife. What a wonderful, amazing person she is. And he ended with the words, "Perhaps I should not have been so profuse in describing my wife's qualities." And he turned this in, you know, to the secretary to give to the Rebbe. And when he got it back, the Rebbe crossed out the word "not" and underlined the word "should." So he ended it like, here I said so many nice things about her, like maybe I went overboard. Perhaps I should not have been so profuse in describing her qualities. And the Rebbe crossed out "not" and underlined "should." Perhaps I should have been so profuse in describing her qualities. Now, I'm not going to play guess why the Rebbe did this game, but what I took from this, just as a very simple little person here, is the Rebbe's telling him, and he had a good relationship with his wife, a good marriage. I was telling him, look at her. Realize how amazing she is. If I force you to put it on paper, you come up with so many amazing things. Yes, you should profusely focus on what an amazing woman she is. That's what marriage is supposed to be like. That's what every relationship is supposed to be like. Imagine if when you look at your spouse and all you see is his good. You don't see that he showed up late, forgot to buy what you asked, bought the wrong thing, didn't pick up the kids, didn't take out the garbage, whatever, all the junk. You look at him and you see his good and you talk about his good and you're so excited about his good. Imagine what a marriage you would have. Imagine what a home you would have. Imagine what a model you're giving for your children. Now, how do you feel if someone praises you? How do you feel when you are praised? How do you feel? Who'd like to respond to that one? When someone's
Depends on
doing
the
this to you, how do
situation.
you feel? Dorit?
I think it depends on the situation, but
Depends on the
sometimes
situation.
it can make me feel uncomfortable. Like if it's in,
If it's
I don't
for
know,
my
I guess if you're
children.
being singled out, or, I mean, even if it's for a good way, but you're kind of like, this wasn't the purpose of this meeting or whatever, to talk about my attributes or whatever. I don't know.
Anyone else? How do you feel when you're praised? So Dorit said it can make her feel uncomfortable. Anyone else? How do you feel when you're praised?
I never liked it, ever.
Never liked it.
Never.
Never a situation when you felt good being praised.
No.
Anyone else?
I think it makes me feel validated.
What you think? I mean, wait. If somebody would ever praise me, I would make me feel validated. Think of a real time. Did it make you feel validated?
Yeah, I think I know when they point out something, like praise a certain quality, it validates that quality of mine.
So you're saying something very good about praise. Okay, good. Anyone else? So Dina says something very important about praise. Anybody else? Any of your experiences on being praised?
I think it
depends. Go ahead.
Keep going. Yeah, I heard two voices and then everybody's polite. So now I hear no voices. Dorit said it makes her uncomfortable. Miriam said she never liked it. Dina said it validates her when they point out something specific, a specific trait. Who else? We've all been in the situation of being praised at some point in our life. How does it make you feel?
It depends where it's coming from and who says it.
It depends who says it
Mhm.
and where it's coming from, meaning like in your brain, you're thinking, why are they saying that?
Yeah,
What do they want?
it
from
could
me?
be condescending.
Are they being condescending?
Like if you're getting praised for something super small.
Super stupid.
Yeah.
Like, wow, yeah, I'm so accomplished. I managed to do that. Thanks a lot. Okay, that's a good point. Who's saying it? I think also the context, what Dorit sort of said, like there's a lot of people around and like she's singled out, like, don't look at me, Anyone else? We're doing this for a reason. Anyone else can tell me what they feel like when they're praised?
Just to kind of echo that, I think it does depend on, for me at least, who it's coming from. Like if it's, like a family member who's like difficult to please, for example, and if that person, compliments something, even if it's like, a meal you made or something like that, it is like it warms your heart a little because it's, you're building upon that relationship with that person who may be difficult to please. I think for my children, like when they've said nice things to me, as little as they are, that also like kind of warms my heart because, it's real and it's authentic, and it's a very like heart-opening experience, and just people you're close with. I think when they're like being like authentically and genuinely giving you kind of that message to like your soul, then it feels great.
We came up with a lot of really important things. The reason why I did this, honestly, I have a very hard time when I'm praised also.
Wait, I had another part.
Oh, let's hear something else. Simcha.
So for me, it also depends on like, what is the motivation of that place? Like, why are they doing that?
That's what Hannah said. What are you praising me for?
No, but like, oh, you mean like, oh, that's what she meant. Like,
I
what-
understood that, Hannah. That's what I thought you meant. Like, why are they saying that to me?
No, that's not what I meant. No.
No,
I
not,
meant
no,
like,
not Anna. Hannah,
oh, sorry.
before you. Sorry. No, I know
Oh.
that's not what you said.
I was saying like if someone praises you for something, like, wow, you did the dishes so well. I'm like, I'm an adult. Like, what's like, I don't know. I don't consider that a praise. I find it condescending.
So it's not like, what do they want out of me? It's just like, why are you patronizing me?
Yes.
We just want you to do more dishes. That's the point.
Mine was more like, well, what are they like? Why are they doing that? What is it that they want?
What do they want? Yeah, what do they, that's what I thought kind of meant. What do they want? Like, they're saying that like, okay, I know you want the credit card. This is the way to get it. All right. I read you. I get it.
So I wanted to say that for me, I feel for me, praise is like a compliment. And I would say most of the time it makes me feel good.
Like
Like,
Dina said,
I try not to take it in a negative way. I try to use it as a positive.
which is exactly what it should be. And that's what Dina said. Dina said it validates her. She feels great when she's praised. So
You know, it's
that's-
interesting because I'm a public school teacher too. I teach fifth graders, and it's very funny. They they notice everything, and
and
they compliment you on things, and it's almost like they're little kids sometimes, and
they
they
like your
tell-
dress.
well, that and even more important things like that they like what you taught or they learn something. I mean, all of those things I feel like help you along in your job or in life.
That's
we need it.
beautiful. You must be a good teacher for them to
Well, I don't
respond in
want
that way.
to sound like it. I'm bragging, that's for sure not. But
No, I mean,
Oh,
I
you
don't
cer-
think all fifth graders are so nice and complimentary to their teachers.
that's
I
how.
don't think so. So I think you must be doing a good job with them for them to be responding like that.
I mean, it's sort of like parenting. Most of it feels very frustrating, but you need those little things to just keep you going.
Like Anna said, when her kids give her compliments, so sweet, so touching. It gives you motivation. Also, when they're sleeping and they look so nice and sweet and angelic, it's always a great moment for that Kodak, camera to come out in your brain. I thought a lot of people said a lot of great things in this discussion, and I did it deliberately because by us thinking about how we feel when we're praised, I think a lot of good things came out to focus us as people that want to give praise and compliments to other people, which was sort of like my point. Now, honestly, I'm very uncomfortable many times when I'm praised, and sometimes I really appreciate it. And I think it has a lot to do, as people said, with who's praising, what's the context. Dorit said she doesn't like feeling singled out. Like, yeah, I would be like totally embarrassed. There's a whole bunch of people and you're praising me. Like, what are you talking about me for? Why are we saying this? Because we want to be that person who's so positive and who profusely praises, but we want to do it the right way. Hannah says something very strong. She said she doesn't like being patronized. Don't compliment me for washing the dishes. It doesn't mean she doesn't want to be complimented. Sounds funny. I still remember this many years ago. My block is like one of those many blocks in West Artist Park, like very hard at night to find parking. And my block might be a little harder than most. And I, so you get good at it. So I was very well fitting into a very tight spot. And I've got no clue what he was, looked like a truck driver, down the block said, "Oh, wow, lady, you parked really well." And I felt really good because I did park well. And it was a skill. And, is that my highest skill set? I hope not. But it's a skill. And I did a good job. And it was difficult. And I appreciate it. Not him. I don't know who him was. But yeah, it was an affirmation. So it doesn't have to be on your highest and deepest trait. And it doesn't have to be only by someone who's very intimate. Like I said, when the therapist, I don't remember which therapist it was, said, "Wow, you could be a therapist by now." I felt great. And I was more engaged. Not again that we were intimates, not that she was a person very relevant in the scheme of my life, besides hopefully, helping my son. But she's a therapist. She appreciated my efforts. It validated my efforts. It made me feel very good. So the reason why I raised this discussion, now again, I also think it's a personality thing. Like Miriam said, she's never appreciated a compliment her whole life. And I'm sure they were genuine compliments by genuine people who she knows cares about her. They weren't in public settings, and she still never appreciated it.
No,
So
it's not that I don't appreciate it. It's just, it embarrasses me. It makes me, I don't like it. I do
even if it's a
appreciate it.
one-on-one and nobody else is around.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So you're saying you appreciate it, but it embarrasses you.
Yes.
Okay. Did that person who's genuine and who cares about you, and it's a one-on-one, do they compliment frequently, or do you rarely get it from them?
No, just in general.
Because my thought, I was thinking about myself. Like, I very often feel very uncomfortable when I'm complimented. I think I agree with you. It's sort of like embarrassing, especially if there's other people around. What are you talking about me for? Don't shine on me a spotlight. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm not interested. It makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel self-conscious. But I was thinking, but if it was, like Anna said, depending on the relationship, if it was someone safe, if it was genuine, and if it was, and I think Dina said a very important thing, a real attribute. Like Hannah said, don't compliment me on wash my dishes. I'm saying compliment me on parking. Compliment me on something that's a skill, or that I've acquired, or that was difficult. Something that I feel good that I can do now. Then again, it doesn't have to be the most holiest thing or the most highest level thing, but you're affirming, you're noticing, and it feels good. So I was thinking to myself, if someone feels awkward when they get complimented, like I do, but if they were complimented enough times, again, by the right people in the right way, I have this feeling I'd get used to it. I have this feeling it would start just feeling good. Like anything that we're sort of a little uncomfortable with, but if it happens enough times, we get used to it. It actually feels good. So why are we saying this? Why are we having this discussion? Because I want to teach you, I want to teach me how to compliment properly. Be very specific. Take what Hannah said. Don't do it in a patronizing, condescending way, meaning don't like compliment for something like, yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm glad that you are impressed that I can do that. Be very genuine. Try not to do it when other people are around, so the other person doesn't feel like, spotlight, unless it's safe people that they're comfortable with. And try not to overdo it. Try not to like make it so grandiose. Try to make it just more like, just natural. Like, I really appreciated that, you did the dishes without being asked. Thanks. If this is to the child, I really appreciated it. You spent an hour and a half waiting online for the IRS today. Thanks so much. I'm really glad I didn't have to do that. That's to your spouse. Again, it's not like, whoa, you are the most amazing person in the world for doing this. But it's like, it's a compliment. It's a thank you. It's praise. And we can do that freely. Again, modulated, so the person's not embarrassed. You don't need to use a string of adjectives. You're highlighting something that's true. Don't compliment or praise for something that's not true, because then the person feels you don't even know what's really going on. You're complimenting me for washing the dishes. I didn't, I just rinsed them under the sink and they're all still dirty and greasy. Like, no, that's not going to make them feel good. For something real, for something they accomplished, for something that's meaningful to you. Oh, it was nothing. Well, for you, it was nothing, but it actually helped me a lot. Thank you so much. Just thank yous, compliments, praise. It changes relationships, it changes people, and it changes you, because you become that person who's always looking for opportunities to see things positively. So it's very powerful to the person you are talking to, and it's very powerful to you. It shifts you. And a lot of us, maybe because we were raised that way, feel you should only compliment if someone really deserves it. Like, I expect people to do that. Why would I compliment for that? Oh, if you did that, I will give you a compliment. But if you do that, that's just, you're supposed to do that. Well, people compliment me for doing my job. Why should I compliment you for that? Drop that thinking. I don't know if it ever worked, but it doesn't work. Definitely doesn't work nowadays. So you can be generous with compliments. They don't have to be cheap and very, very earned. They still work, even if you're just a little generous, a little overly, free in complimenting and saying thank you and noticing nice things about other people. Oh, wow. Okay, it's 9:05 already. So we're going to stop at this point because I do want to speak about the Parsha. I also did want to speak about Tennessee, but I guess we will do that this time. Okay, some ideas on the Parsha. It's an amazing Parsha. This week is Parshas Vayera. For people that definitely want to be able to share at the Shabbos table and give the children a shining example of sharing great, insightful ideas and then inspiring the kids to share their great ideas. It's a lot of different things. It's a really rich Parsha. There's many, many, many amazing things to talk about. I'm going to see what I get through in 10 minutes. The end of the Parsha is the Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak, which of course is so much within the idea of the binding of Yitzchak. I just want to pull out one small idea that I think is very powerful, but actually is sort of a preliminary to the story. So here's Avraham. He's 137. Yitzchak, therefore, is 37. And Avraham has devoted his entire life to Hashem. According to the general, there are various opinions, but like from age 3, he already recognized Hashem. Obviously, all the opinions are true. They're all various stages in his relationship with Hashem. But he's dedicated his whole life to promoting monotheism, to promoting Hashem in an idolatrous world. And he's been very successful. And he's convinced many, many people to leave idols and to believe in Hashem and to follow Hashem. And Hashem promised him that he was going to have a child. And he did. Hashem even told him the name of the kid, Yitzchak. And Hashem said, this is going to be the father of Klal Yisrael. This is going to be the father of the Jewish people. Not Yishmael, Yitzchak. He's the father of the Jewish people. So here he is. He's 137. And Yitzchak's not married yet. Yitzchak's 37 and not married, has no kids. And Hashem comes along and tells him to do what he has spent his entire life telling people not to do. To do child sacrifice. To offer him up on an altar to God. Which again, to us just sounds like so crazy, but in those days actually was done. It's like an in thing. Everybody believed in idols, besides the ones that everyone convinced not to. And unfortunately, many people believe that you sacrifice people to the idols. Your children, your parents, it's people. That was a sacrifice. The way of serving the idol is you give them your kids. And Abraham had spent his entire life preaching to the world, God doesn't want child sacrifice. God doesn't want you to sacrifice people. God's a God of love, a God of compassion. God doesn't want you to do this. And now at 137, Hashem is telling him to go do it. And when Hashem says this to him, Hashem says, Kach no es bincha es yichidcha asher hafta es Yitzchak. Please take your son, your only son, take Yitzchak. And Rashi says, what's the no business? No means please. Why is God saying please? God's giving a command. Take Yitzchak, put him on the altar. Why does God say, please take Yitzchak, please put him on the altar? So Rashi answers, I'm asking you to please do this. Because if you don't do this, if you don't pass this 10th and most difficult test, everyone will say the other 9 were nothing. Meaning, Avram went through incredible tests for God. Our sages say he was tested 10 times. Like he threw himself in a fiery furnace, many, many things he went through for Hashem. And he passed all of them, flying colors. And now Hashem was giving him the most difficult challenge of his life. Why was it such a difficult challenge? I could spend like an hour telling you why it was a difficult challenge. Obviously, sacrificing a child is difficult. And this is the promised child that Hashem says is going to be the father of Klal Yisrael. And he's not having other kids. He's 137. And Yitzchak, Hashem's not keeping his words. Yitzchak has no kids. If he's gone, where's Klal Yisrael going to be? And Avram was the embodiment of God's kindness. And Hashem was asking me to do the most harsh thing. And Hashem didn't really want him to. So Avram's soul that mirrored Hashem knew Hashem didn't really want him to do this. And many, many, many other reasons. And Avram was going against what he had taught people his entire life. So on every single level, and I could explain and explain and explain, we don't have time. On every single level, it made no sense. It was completely contrary to how Hashem behaves. It was completely against all of the teachings Avram had promoted for his entire 137 years. It made no sense. God doesn't want this, but God was telling him to do it. And Hashem said, please do this. Because if you do this, it shows that your relationship with me has nothing to do with what makes sense. Because this makes no sense. And that's Jewish self-sacrifice. That's what's unique about a Jew. Meaning, Avram already sacrificed his life to God. He threw himself in the fiery furnace with Nimrod years and years and years ago. But there are a lot of people in this world that will die for their belief system. The early Christians threw themselves to the lions. The Japanese kamikaze pilots in World War II were suicide missions. The Palestinian terrorists today in Israel. To die for your belief system is not unique. What's unique about being a Jew is to die for something that has nothing to do with how you live your life. To die for something that makes no sense to you. And that's what Hashem was asking Avram here. He was saying, I know you spent your whole life telling people not to sacrifice their children. Sacrifice your child. I know you know I don't want child sacrifice. Sacrifice your child. I know Yitzchak is supposed to be the father of Klal Yisrael. Sacrifice your child. I know I gave you a prophecy and prophecies always have to come true. We're forgetting about the prophecy. Like nothing made sense. And Avram did it anyway. And that's the unique and special mark of a Jew's relationship to Hashem. That our relationship isn't limited by what makes sense. Because all of us in our life have things that have to do with our relationship with God that don't make sense. And we still stick to him. I think, Hashem, you're really lucky because we stick with you. I mean, we're lucky that you stick with us. But we're lucky that you're lucky that we stick with you. Because we've all been in situations where it doesn't make sense to do what Hashem's asking. Hashem says, right, that's being a Jew. That's being an Avraham. That's please listen. Because I know this doesn't make sense. I know this goes against everything I've told you your entire life. I know this is destroying everything you preach for your entire life. Do it anyway. And it's a very powerful message. I don't know if anyone can think of a time when they were in a situation where they had to do something for Hashem that didn't make any sense, where they were serving and it didn't make any sense, but they just did it because they knew that's what Hashem demands, even though it really made no sense. Anyone can think of a situation they've been in like that? And we've all been in those situations. The question is on the spot. Can you remember one? It might not be as glamorous as Abraham and the binding of Yitzchak. But just when you listen to Hashem, even though everything inside of you said this makes no sense. I mean, just thinking of a simple example for some people might be when they feel they don't have enough money for themselves at all. And yet Hashem is demanding them to give tzedakah, to give at least 10%. And that doesn't make any sense. You yourself are, so to speak, needing tzedakah. You yourself are lacking money and you think you're supposed to take 10% and give to someone else. Maybe you should just keep it for yourself so you don't need to take so much from other people. Makes no sense, so to speak. But that's what Hashem says to do. So like, we've all been in different situations. Again, it's not as glamorous as Akedah Yitzchak. But we all have those situations in life where it doesn't really make sense what Hashem's asking. I don't see how I could do it. I don't see how this works at all. But still, we somehow give Hashem what he's asking, though it's way beyond anything that makes any sense to us. Because We're Jewish. And that's a Jewish relationship to God, that it doesn't always have to compute within logic, that we can be a little bigger than logic. And it's a really important thing to give over to our kids. Because if everything makes sense and it all completely works, what's going to happen in their life when it doesn't make sense and it doesn't seem to work? So it's a really important message to find a way to convey to your children that, you know, sometimes it's hard and sometimes I don't understand and sometimes it doesn't make sense, but that's okay, because Hashem is a lot bigger than my brain. You know, he's God, I'm human. He's a creator, I'm a creation. So it's okay if I don't understand all the mitzvahs, if I don't understand why Hashem needs me to do this. If it doesn't make sense to me, this mitzvah, that's fine. I mean, if everything he did made sense to me, then I'd be just like him. It's a really important conversation to have many times with our children, because what we really are trying to teach them is to be people that serve Hashem even when it doesn't make sense. People that serve Hashem without calculations. People that serve Hashem with self-sacrifice, which just means I understand, I don't understand. He's God, he knows what he's doing, and therefore I serve. And that's my part of the relationship. All right, there's a lot more we could talk about this, but it's late. I was told to end on time. So we will stop at this point. Thank you so much for joining. And we should all have such a positive week and have really concrete tools in our hand, how to not only change it for ourselves, but to change the environment with our husband, with our children, with our colleagues, to really, really be that person that makes the world just a more positive, happy, less stressed place. Thank you so much for joining.
Amen to that. And thank you as always,
Thank
Mrs. Jordan.
you.
Thank you.